It's a story that has the music world kind of buzzing right now. An attempted robbery and a shooting, and a San Francisco rapper fighting for his life in L.A.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So today we're going to do a deep dive into the events surrounding Lil Yee
Okay.
and what this incident might reveal about what's going on kind of under the surface in the California rap scene.
I'm interested.
Yeah, we've got news reports, background interviews.
Cool.
We even have some of Lil Yee's own music to unpack.
Awesome. I think this is going to be really interesting. I think as we go through these sources, we're going to find that there's more to uncover than just what we see in the headlines.
Absolutely. So let's start with what we know for sure.
Okay.
It's Thursday night, March 6th, at the Room Recording Studios on Melrose Avenue in L.A.
Got it.
Lil Yee was there. And around 10 p.m., things took a terrifying turn.
Yeah, according to the police report, the perpetrator forced entry into the studio and demanded Lil Yee's watch.
Oh, wow.
It seems like the situation escalated pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And Lil Yee was shot twice in the chest during the struggle?
It's scary. It's a stark reminder of the vulnerability that even successful artists can face.
For sure.
And speaking of success, maybe this is a good time to kind of delve into Lil Yee's background a bit.
Okay.
He's known for representing his San Francisco roots pretty fiercely,
Yeah.
especially the Fillmore district.
Absolutely. He's often spoken about how growing up in the Fillmore shaped his perspective and his music.
Yeah.
You can hear that pride in his lyrics, but also in interviews where he really emphasizes that his connection to the neighborhood is something authentic. You know, something you can't just fabricate.
Right, and that authenticity really seems to resonate with his fans, especially those familiar with the California rap scene.
Yeah.
In a 2022 interview, he even said, quote, "Being from Fillmore, you can't fake being from Fillmore," end quote.
It's powerful.
It's like that background is woven into his identity as an artist.
You know, it's interesting because the attempted robbery targeted his watch.
Yeah.
And often those kinds of luxury items become symbols of success in the music industry. Do you think that played a role in him being targeted?
I mean, it's definitely possible, and it makes his rise in the California rap scene even more relevant to the story.
Yeah.
He's not just some random musician.
Right.
He's a figure who represents a certain level of achievement,
Sure.
which unfortunately can make you a target. His hit single War from 2016 really put him on the map, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Over 10 million views on YouTube.
Wow. War is a great example of how he blends his personal experiences with a broader commentary on the realities of street life. And in the song, there's even a line that seems almost prophetic now.
What's that?
He says, quote, "If I never drop another song again, people are still going to have war in rotation," end quote.
Wow.
It speaks to a certain confidence, but also maybe an awareness of the fleeting nature of fame.
Wow, listening to those lyrics in light of this incident is chilling.
It is.
It really adds another layer to this story, doesn't it? Have you ever heard War before?
I have, and what strikes me now is how that line highlights the tension between wanting to leave a lasting legacy and the inherent risks that come with visibility in a genre that often glorifies a certain lifestyle.
That's a really insightful point. So we have this incident at a recording studio, an artist whose music reflects the realities of street life. And now the police are even suggesting that this wasn't just a random robbery, but a potential setup orchestrated by another rapper.
That's where things get even more complicated. We have to ask, what would be the motive behind such a setup?
Yeah.
And to understand that, we need to delve deeper into the dynamics of the California rap scene.
Okay, let's do that.
The California rap scene it's fiercely competitive.
Yeah.
It's not just about talent, it's about image, reputation, street cred, you know?
Right.
That can create a breeding ground for rivalries and even violence.
So you're saying that this potential setup could stem from those pressures within the industry itself?
Exactly. Think about it. Lil Yee's success, his lyrics about street life, his connection to the Fillmore, all of that contributes to his persona. And in a genre where authenticity is so valued, those things can also make you a target for someone looking to maybe climb the ranks or settle a score.
Yeah, it's almost like a twisted form of validation.
Right.
You know, if you're seen as a threat by another rapper, in a way, it reinforces your position in the scene.
It's a dangerous game, though, and it goes beyond just music. We're talking about real lives, real consequences.
Right.
The police are looking into potential motives like professional jealousy, personal disputes, even past beefs that might have escalated.
It's a lot to take in. We've got this young artist, pride in his roots, a hit song that speaks to a certain reality, and now this incident that could be connected to the very world he represents through his music.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process.
It gets even more complex when you consider that the police are investigating whether this was a planned hit potentially orchestrated by another rapper.
Right.
And that raises questions about the level of violence within the industry and whether this incident is an isolated event or part of a larger pattern.
It's a chilling thought. It makes you wonder, what could drive someone to that level of violence?
Well, we have to be careful not to speculate too much.
Uh.
But if we look at the history of hip-hop, particularly gangster rap, there's a long and complicated relationship with violence. It's often been part of the narrative, both in the lyrics and in the lives of the artists themselves.
Yeah, we've seen feuds between rappers escalate into real-life tragedies.
Yeah.
It's a sad reality. But what about Lil Yee, specifically? Is there anything in his background or his music that might suggest he had enemies within the industry?
That's where things get tricky. We don't want to contribute to any rumors or speculation.
Right.
But what we can do is look at his lyrics, his interviews, and his public persona for clues.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's go back to his music for a minute.
Okay.
We talked about War, which was a huge hit for him.
Right.
But are there any other songs or lyrics that might shed some light on potential rivalries or tensions?
There are a few tracks where he talks about navigating the streets, staying true to his crew, and dealing with people who doubted him.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that art often blurs the lines between reality and fiction.
Sure.
We can't assume that every lyric is autobiographical.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So how do we separate the art from the reality in a situation like this?
It's difficult, but what we can do is look for patterns, connections, and any public statements that might corroborate the themes in his music.
Gotcha.
For example, in that 2022 interview, he talks about how being from the Fillmore meant you had to earn respect, that it wasn't something given freely, that suggests a certain level of street code he lived by.
And that code could easily translate into rivalries or tensions, especially in a competitive field like music.
Exactly. And if we look at some of his other lyrics, there are hints of past conflicts, challenges he faced coming up in the scene. It's not enough to draw any definitive conclusions, but it does provide some context for the police's theory about a potential setup.
So while we can't definitively say that someone had it out for Lil Yee, it seems like there's enough there to suggest that his background and his music could have put him in a precarious position within the California rap scene.
That's a fair assessment, and that's what makes this whole situation so tragic.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that success in this industry doesn't always come without a price.
It makes you think about the risks these artists take, not just creatively, but also personally. They're putting themselves out there, expressing their truths, and sometimes that can have unintended consequences.
And it highlights the need for a deeper conversation about the glorification of violence in certain genres of music.
Absolutely. We can't ignore the potential influence that music has, both positive and negative.
Right.
It's a complex issue, but one that we need to address head on. What I find particularly unsettling is the idea that this could have been a hit orchestrated by someone. Lil Yee knew someone within the industry itself.
Yeah, it has a whole new layer of darkness to this story. It's not just about a random act of violence, but potentially a calculated attack, from within his own circle. And it raises questions about the culture, within certain segments of the music industry. Is there a level of acceptance or even encouragement of violence as a means of settling scores or maintaining power?
It's a tough question to grapple with, but one that we can't shy away from, especially when we consider the impact this has on the artists themselves. They're living in a world where their success can be intertwined with danger.
And it's not just the artists, their families, their friends, their fans. Everyone connected to them is affected by this violence. Think about Lil Yee's family right now. They're not only dealing with the trauma of his injuries, but also the fear and uncertainty of what led to this and who might be responsible.
And there's also Lil Yee's brother, Najee Harris. He's a star running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, living a very public life himself. Can you imagine what it must be like for him dealing with his brother's situation while navigating the pressures of his own career?
It's a stark reminder that these events ripple outward, impacting those closest to the victim in profound ways. It shines a light on the human cost of this violence, the pain and suffering that extends far beyond the immediate incident.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, what can we do to change this culture? How do we create a safer environment for artists, especially in genres where violence is often glorified?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions, but I think it starts with recognizing the problem, having open and honest conversations about the role of violence in music, and holding those who perpetuate it accountable.
It's also about supporting artists who are trying to break free from those cycles of violence, who are using their platform to promote peace and positivity. Lil Yee, in his own way, was doing that. He was proud of his roots, he spoke out against injustice, and he used his music to share his experiences and connect with people.
And that's what makes this whole situation even more tragic. He was a talented artist with a message, and now his voice has been silenced, at least for now.
We can only hope that his recovery is swift and complete, and that this incident serves as a wake-up call for the music industry and beyond. We need to create a culture where talent and creativity are celebrated, not overshadowed by violence and fear.
I agree. And I think it's important for listeners to remember that they have a role to play as well. Supporting artists who promote positive messages, calling out violence when you see it, and demanding change from the industry. These are all actions that can make a difference.
This deep dive has been a sobering experience, but it's also been illuminating. We've explored the life and work of Lil Yee, delved into the complexities of the California rap scene, and grappled with the difficult questions surrounding violence in music.
We've seen the pride and authenticity that fueled Lil Yee's music, the potential dangers that come with success in a competitive industry, and the devastating impact of violence on individuals and communities.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with a lot to think about. The price of fame, the allure and dangers of certain genres, and the responsibility we all have to create a safer and more supportive environment for artists. What are your final thoughts on this?
For me, it comes back to the music. Lil Yee's story is a reminder that behind the beats and the lyrics, there are real people with real lives, hopes and dreams, and those lives deserve to be protected.
Beautifully said. We hope this deep dive has given you some new perspectives on the Lil Yee shooting and the larger issues it raises. We'll continue to follow the story and keep you updated on any developments. Until then, keep listening, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.